Happy new moon. New moon in May. May 12th is when I connect with you, a day after new moon. And I thank you for honoring the shift in time or the shift in day for and offering meditation Mondays. It's nice to have a day of rest between two public appearances. So welcome. How has new moon been treating you? How has it been? Lots has been coming through. So I am encouraged to hear as well from you. You're welcome to share of anything that has been moving through this moon cycle. And I have lots of cards all around me to also support the journey. Candle has been lit. Spirit team has been connected to, and I am feeling the vibe. Lots to share. So if you are new to New Moon Oracle, I am Josie, and nice to meet you. Welcome. Welcome to sit together and connect. I would first share to take some big deep breaths and allow yourself to settle. Allow yourself to just honor that this is a space where you can receive. And in the receiving, there may be release. To welcome what has come with you into this present moment. And as you slow down your breath, to connect to your center. And as you connect to your center, to welcome all beings divine that are here with you. Angels, ascended teachers, light beings. All that are choosing to support your walk through these cycles now. And to open this link, to share your heart to our team of beings around us so that they can converse and share what is needed through this session. What is needed in clarity or in translation. And to welcome your connection to the earth and the waters of the earth that move through your body. And as you welcome and open yourself to the connection of the earth, you can greet Earth Mother and all the sentient beings that your body is connected to. And to give acknowledgement to your soul. The essence of who you are. And to welcome the guardian of your soul. To feel safer from within to open further to receive. And when you are ready, you're welcome to lie down, open your eyes, chat in the comments, whatever you are so guided to do. And I am going to check in to see where to begin, because usually in preparation for these sessions, so much is coming in. And so there's a time when I'm like, where do I start? Spirit, there's so much to share. So I will draw from the Return of the Spirit deck from Cheryl Lee Harnish, just to check in and see where we shall begin this journey. So collective oracle. Yeah, this one's like saying, hi, 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 hi. Hi, 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 hi. Ah, yes, yes. Okay, so we're starting with voice. We're starting with it. We're starting with the speech. We're starting with how we speak. Lots is coming up around that. It's, okay. This new moon, there is a lot moving through in shadow and as well as in light. And when I share those two, I am not sharing that they are opposites. I'm sharing that they cohabit. They are part of the same one. And so be it that you are experiencing, now look at how you maybe look into the light, right? When you look into the light or you see light, definition starts to dissipate, because light can kind of blanket out, as you can see even just by the window behind me, right? There's actually a whole world out there, but because of how the light is being shown right now, it kind of blankets out much of the definition of what we may see. And then, of course, in shadow, right? If you're facing the light, this gorgeous big shadow, depending on how strong the light is, will be created. Well, naturally, it's part of the same thing, right? Light and shadow come as one. And so, and dependent on how light, of course, refracts, reflects, and moves on objects, it will either share different ways of seeing the object or seeing the form. So there has been a lot that has been coming up. Spirit's been talking a lot and been speaking a lot through many oracles, many channelers, many people about shadow right now, and an emphasis on shadow work. And so when I first received that nudge to look into the shadow, right? Sometimes when you look into the shadow, instead of actually sensing or receiving what the shadow actually wishes to share with you, right? You will instead try to find something, like, you know what I mean? You try to actually define something in the shadows. You try to actually like locate something. You try to actually seek something out. And that kind of, I always just get, it's like the squinting, right? When you're doing that work. So you're like, okay, I'm in the shadow, and like, what's there? What's there for me to see? And the the work in the shadows, that I find are coming up now is not having to go super, super far, right? You don't have to squint and search and try to look deep into what is within. The beauty of shadow, right, is that if you go and look into the light, it will come like that, right? It's just a natural occurrence. So instead of kind of going into a cave, going into, a dark cave and where everything is dark, and it might be hard to differentiate what is shadow, right, within darkness, then the beauty, of course, is to go and look into the light. And so how do you do that, right? How do you do that? Do you literally like take a light and literally look into it and gaze into it to hope that shadow reflects? Well, what comes usually then is by being either in presence, or if you are still in where you are living in more self-isolation, then it is in being in connection like this, sitting in presence with other beings that are choosing at present to remember also that they are of light. And what I mean by of light, that there is a divine aspect of self. There is a divine aspect of all of us within our soul, within the exact essence of who we are. And so why is this all coming up with this first card, voice? You may wonder. Well, it's neat because even and you see this beautiful image, right? There's like this gorgeous light that is around this, be it vocal cord or a thing like that. And because of that light, you are seeing and receiving way more definition, way more things that are just naturally surfacing. So I had to share a little bit of that first, because how are many of us sharing of our essence, sharing of our being, is online, is over the phone, is, on Zoom, on YouTube, on Instagram, on all these different platforms that are allowing you to record and share your sound. And through your sound is either going to be traveling toward and sharing and let's say resounding to others and sharing of from a balanced and present space and acknowledgement of self, or not. So how are you sharing of your presence now? Big question coming up this new moon. How are you sharing of your presence now? How are you choosing to communicate? How are you choosing to share your sound? For sound is the way that right now we are able to share our light, our vibration, our energy, all of it. And so I am not saying to all of a sudden change your tone or change your voice or try to sound only pretty sounding things, because that is not necessarily what sharing of your light is. Okay, sharing of your light is not this false kind of positivity or pretending that everything is well. Sharing of your light is sharing of truth. And sharing of truth energy, through sound, okay, can only be accessed when moved through the whole body. And why I share that is because a big question now is also, as you are communicating, if you are experiencing multiple miscommunications or multiple mistranslations of what you are trying to share with others, and trying to figure out, how do I speak, how do I clarify what my experience is at this moment in time, we tend to get very caught up within the mental processes. The mental processes being, well, is this good for me, or is this good for all? Could be many questions, right? When you're going into analyzing what you're going to say, you're going into additional filters, is the word I'm getting. Additional filters before your sound actually moves through your mouth to those who you care about, those who you're in connection with, those who you may not even really care about, but you are still in connection with. So the mind can keep us filtering and feeling like the filtering is good, right? That it's going to allow more good to come out of your mouth, but it may not actually be the true sound. It may not actually be your truth. And so why do you think that is? Why do you think, if I took, right, like I here to even share this message today, right? I had to, move through preparing and connecting with spirit. I did my, calling in my guardians, calling in my protectors, calling all of this, connecting to the earth, connecting to Earth Mother. So that, and why is that a process? Is because in connection to the earth, and this is something that came very, very clearly the night before the new moon. So Monday night was in connecting to the earth, right? Our body then connects to all beings that are living, all beings that are moving on this earth. And so that allows you to tap into more support through your sensory experience, as well as more actual ease in clearing what may be moving through the body at this time, be it from grief, sadness, anger, that it might be coming up through the shadows, or even in processing all the other feels, right? All the way up to euphoria. So in the connection to the earth, right? This has also been spoke of as intuition, having a intuitive connection to your body, which is in reality, it's just succumbing and accepting that your body is not separate. Your body is in connection to all. Your body is in connection to the earth. And so in releasing almost the division between your body and the earth, what then of course can happen, everyone knows the shadow aspect of intuition. They call it empath, right? They call it that, like, you get overly blown away by the amount of collective sensation. There's almost there's no way of defining yourself and your equilibrium with the wave of sensations that may move through you from others. And then of course the light aspect of intuition is that we're in connection to all. So it's like, great, we're in connection to all, but then we're in connection to all. You might actually then be moving through a lot of additional emotions. And as soon as an empath connects to all these emotions, they're like, oh my goodness, what is mine and what is another? And that is when the mind comes in. When we put a question to something, to an experience, That is when the mind gets triggered to kind of go, doo, 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 doo. Let's figure it out. Let's filter. Okay, so is this someone else's or is this mine? So again, oddly enough, you know what I mean? Like you first went into a connection to allness. You first went into a connection to the earth and all beings to sense more within your body, to feel more support and protection and safety within your body. And then when at times, the emotions or the sensations get overwhelming or too much, then you're like, oh, I need separation again. This is too much. This is your stuff. This is not mine. Yours, not mine. Yours, not mine. And then and as soon as we filter, that mental filter of going yours, not mine, then we then need to redefine almost who is me, right? Because you went through this whole connection into going, oh, we're all connected, we're all related. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh my gosh, well, I just shared something that is not mine, this is mine. So then I need to reassess who is me. And so in the rebirthing phase that we moved through in March, right? We're now in like the growth phase. Like we're starting to grow. We're starting to, get the feelers out and start to actually connect further, which can be a very joyous experience for some. And you'll find maybe that there'll be waves. So what I might be sharing, you'll be like, I'm in this wave right now, or I'm in that. So in those waves, there will be times when you feel uber connected and that connection feels really good. And there will be times when you feel uber connected and that connection might feel very scary. And so what I'm sharing is that is the shadow that surfaces, right? The shadow is when at any time in deep connection or receiving more than, which is what we ask for all the time, then the shadow may bring up, I need to define me once again. And in the defining of self, well, defining of I usually steps in a really great protector that we think of and call upon way before sometimes angels, which is so silly, which is the ego. And so then the ego shows up and it's like, and then it starts to filter even more. It starts to bring more and more and more filters into the current experience until you fully believe what the ego is sharing with you, instead of accessing and moving through the shadow that surfaced, right? Ego tries to take care of the shadow not feeling as scary or not feeling as intense, or that anything is wrong with self and that everything may be wrong with everyone else. So how does this then come back to this initial thing of us sharing our sound, Well, when we are not in presence as much anymore in person, right? Or you may be in smaller groups, you might find that when you're in present, you may even be extrasensory aware, right? Because we are growing into a much extrasensory perspective of our entire body. It's an incredible rebirthing and growing phase. And so the one thing that has still been filtered during this whole process, during this past year, right, is our voice. That is the one thing how we've been able to still connect to many. And so what is coming up for me when I draw this card first, in relations to what Spirit's been nudging in the past couple of days about these shadow light cycles that are showing up, is that how are you sharing all this deep work that you are doing? Is it bringing you more connection, or is it making you feel more disconnected? And if you are feeling that you are still in a place of disconnection to more beings supporting you and listening to your sound, then to not fear your sound, then to not filter it anymore. And not filtering it doesn't mean all of a sudden sounding not like you, or sounding like, when we think of not filtering language, we're like, oh, that just means I'm going to swear all the time now. And it's like, that's not, sure, if that's how you regularly speak, then go for it. But, it's not about being unfiltered. So kind of being like, I don't care what I'm going to say. Being unfiltered is just allowing your voice to come from what you are sensing, from what you are feeling, from how you are connecting to your body and to all that you are connecting to, be it light beings, be it all of that, allowing the sound, trusting your sound to move through without it having to even reach and filter through the mind. And then you're like, oh my gosh, but then what if people don't like it? What if people don't like me? And so these are some of the shadows that we may be facing, is still this fear that even us, in sharing of our work, our light, our dismantling, all the things that you have been moving through and doing in your internal work, will still separate you. Questions so far? What's surfacing? This just jumps out. A new start. A new start is coming. And this new start, I'm going to share, I think I shared this story. If I sometimes I share stories on different platforms and with different groups. So if you've heard it before, just let me know. But what I mean by this, in very clear example, is that the fear of speaking our truth because then maybe it won't be received well, right? Or maybe it won't, your truth, it might sound naive, or it might sound too hopeful and you're speaking it to someone who is not as hopeful as you, or it might sound too like, we're all one, and one person is like, no, I am me, like, there is the fear that it may trigger a response that will harm these uber sensitive beings that we've become in this deep kind of connection to all that is. So, so what do we do instead? You either choose to not speak or to filter and just think of how much work you may have had to do about that, like figuring out how to make your sound palatable for who may be listening, for, take into all account all the different times you may have spoke to that person before, and then figure out like what is safe, what may not be true, but what is safe. And so the speaking truth and moving through the shadows around your voice right now, right? Moving through all the uncertainties of sharing all that you wish to share, and is usually because it may not be supported. And so I remember clear as day. Went and did this incredible, like high frequency, breathing practices, meditation practices, and movement practices with this teacher at this workshop. And we're all like flying high, like we were connected to some very, very, high frequency energy. We were buzzing, like light was just all over. And with that, we stepped into somewhere, sat down, and shared that light, of course, with everyone that were around us, and our sound and how we communicated and all of that. And I saw how even the person that came to serve us was didn't like this. And so there was a part of me at that moment, because when we are in deep celebration, deep hope, deep growth, deep renewal, deep like, woo, we're starting anew, right? You have the giddiness of a child, you have the excitement of a child. And so I'm like, like when a kid all of a sudden just realized like their joy is not being supported in the surroundings that they are in, and they all of a sudden are just like, oh. And so I found myself starting to do that. And so I had to sit with that experience, because it's happened multiple times whenever connecting further and further to truth, further and further to joy, was realizing that it wasn't, never had to filter my suffering. I never had to filter when I was sharing pain. It was more so having to filter the true essence that I am. And so, have you ever felt at a time in your life that you're like, oh, maybe I'm too much for people, or oh, maybe I'm my energy is too, like we get all these weird shadow thoughts in in the head of going like, oh my God, like there's something wrong with my growth. There's something wrong with my expansion. And so let me learn to be a little smaller. Let me learn to just like hold it a little bit closer towards me, so that I don't have to then potentially, what does light do? Potentially share a shadow with another. And so I know I spoke a bit about this on Monday, if you tuned into Meditation Monday. But I promise to go further about it in New Moon Oracle tonight. For this is a really big thing. There's all these things all around us about heal yourself, get better, improve your body, eat well, feel like grow a new body, and be it like whatever you're doing, be it from nutrition to and healing and growing a new body, to the mental work, be it even in therapy, be it in like a support group, be it in meditation, in all that is improving and clearing, and accessing more truth and clarity within the mind, all of the work that you may be doing to see when the ego shows up, and to acknowledge it, and then to see how you can process what the ego is trying to protect you from, so that you can learn a new way, so that the ego doesn't have to come up and potentially harm you and harm others. Be it the work that you're doing in just solely connecting to the heart and trying to figure out like, what is all this hard stuff in? How can I heal it? How can I forgive? How can I open my heart again? How can I learn what love is, so that potentially I could share it with more people. Be it that it is completely on the spiritual realm of your work, of expanding more into understanding that we are not alone, that there is massive connection to spirit, that there is massive connection to so many beings on so many different in dimensions of energy and light movement and vibration that are just here going, here's more data, here's more information, here you go. You know, all this work that you do, and then you're like, who can I share this with? What if my healed body brings up a shadow in someone who needs to heal their body? What if my healed mind emotions, past loves, past traumas? What if all this work still leaves me alone? And that is what is coming up now, is to, like, we're almost there. We're almost there. A new start is coming. We collectively are almost there, but the collective, right, will move at a bit of a slower pace than some, because everyone has a unique pace. We spoke of pace on Monday too, right? So the collective pace might sometimes seem a little slower or a little behind, or sometimes a bit more advanced. You never know of where you may be on a certain cycle that you are healing and growing with. So it is coming, it is also here. And so to assist it in being here now more in your life, some of the big shadows that might be coming are going, the shadows actually that are around you, sharing more of your joy, sharing more of your light, sharing more of your love, sharing more of your truth. And being strong enough in that, not strong from the ego going, I'm going to share it no matter what. I don't give a damn if 15 people fall down in front of me. Ah! You know, like there is that type of like, I am a warrior with my truth. Ah! That is an anticipation of a battle. We are processing that so that there is no need then to feel like you have to fight in order to speak, and to allow that speech and your voice to be supported by those around you, and for that speech and for your voice and for your light to actually attract more beings that choose and wish to support you on your journey. So what comes up in processing the shadow that is around you actually sharing your, and you know, these terms have been around for quite a while now, your powerful sovereign being. That is what's coming up. As you step more into the light, not to feel like you are blinded by the light, but to look at the shadows that are there, in sharing your truth, in sharing your strength, in sharing all that you are, with the knowledge. My dog's going to say hello to the siren, emphasizing this. Yes! Sound! That's his wolf coming out. I know he's got that. Every wild dog for sure has a bit of wolf in them. Coming out for the new moon oracle. A little howl. What comes up is when, and I felt this so deeply Monday night. I wrote about a bit of this as well on my blog, which I'll leave a link to if you're guided to read on the I, you, and we. But this vacillation, this confusion between body being separate and body being a deep connection and sentient being to all the beings on this planet. The fears then that come in the knowing that we are connected and not separate. Processing that. And as we allow then more of that, it doesn't feel then like a surrender, like a giving up anything. It feels like an opening to this intrinsic, just connection. You know it. I'm sure many of you have connected to Earth before, right? Or on a regular basis. And so what was shared is so I was asking about this. I was like, what is this shadow that everyone's talking about now? And they're like, this big shadow that's coming up is this, the big thing of like separation or connection. And so in this, Earth Mother shared this beautiful message of just going like, your body you might feel is separate, right? So we close it. We were like, maybe we can't share these aspects of self because they may harm someone else. And they're like, but anything that is closing your body off from connection is self-harm. And I was like, what? Like everything that is, because our body yearns for this connection, our body craves this connection to other human beings, to the earth, right? And the more that we connect to the earth, the more that we connect to the energy of the earth, then the more understanding we have of how the body is connected to all that is of earth and water. And so the most incredible thing in that feeling and sensory experience of connection is then knowing that when we disconnect, that is kind of harming more the collective. That is being felt. That is being felt by Earth Mother. That is being felt by all these living beings that wish to feel you. And so, but what sometimes maintains us from these deep and intrinsic connections and expanding and sharing our sounds, sharing our sentience, sharing our sensory experience is sharing more of ourself, is that we are afraid that we may harm. Isn't this wild? So you're afraid that you might harm someone else or make them angry or make them sad or make them whatever way, shape, or form, right? Some type of reaction to what your truth is, which will then, because sharing truth gets you giddy and childlike and innocent, and in that you might feel more vulnerable, and then that might harm you, and then it's like back into the harm cycles. And so the shadow also that we are looking at with that is even me having to prepare to say some things like this freak me out, right? Because I'm like, oh my gosh, what if they take it in the wrong way? Even me processing it as I'm trying to speak it. It's so wild. Okay. What if Josie, just say it? Do you want to hear it? Okay. If you are speaking and communicating and connecting from your center, from your truth, from your soul, from your essence, from your being, from your body, from your spirit, from all of you, there can then, because all of those aspects of self are intrinsically connected to all, there is no way then that the intention could be to harm another. When, though, you are not speaking from that place or not connecting from that place, but more so choosing to speak or share your truth from a place that is going, I am separate. I am only I. Because then the I will ask for the ego to kind of differentiate where they are on the scale of I's, right? How much power, how strong is the I right now, right? That can be confusing. The intention may be to solely benefit the I. So then our sound may harm. So when we speak from a place of accepting connection, accepting all that is, there is, I'll need to repeat it, there is no way that the intention could be from a place of harm, or else you would literally be harming yourself. So then, in that knowing, the harm that may be witnessed, or what you may perceive is harm from another in their response or reaction to you in your allness, in your light, in your sovereignty, in your power, in your fill in the blank, whatever you wish to share with that, is simply a shadow that has been defined by that light. And so, in connection to all, in loving your body, you're loving all bodies. In loving your spirit, you're obviously connecting and sharing that joy and connection to all spirits. You know, it is not negating the I. There is simply a knowing that the I has constant support of the we. And so in that knowing, our work that we are being asked to, in what may surface in the uncertainty of sharing our truth and sharing our hope and joy and light, is that if you're in any way presence to your truth brings up a shadow in another, can we stop then shrinking our growth, stopping our growth for another 100 years, another 200 years? You know what I mean? Like, can we wait till all is okay? Like, there will always be shadow. And so in that acceptance, the shadow that one tree makes on another plant, right? It's like that doesn't stop the tree from growing. Every shadow will bring you further into light. Every light might possibly share shadow. This beautiful dance. And so how would it feel to speak your truth with the intention and the knowing that you're speaking it from a place of deep, deep honoring of what your being is and how you are innately connected to all. And so that if then, in you sharing your sound, it may show a shadow, it may bring someone into an ego response, or may bring, any type of response that might feel like all of a sudden you're like, oh shit, what did I do? I was an innocent child at that moment. To have the strength as your adult self, expressing the joy, the innocence, the openness of your child self together. To have the capacity to stand and still be there and still share your truth and to still shine bright as you wish to. And to promise to process when the shadows arise. Be it that they are, I need to become lesser, or be it that, oh, fuck that person, they're them and I'm me, and like that type of petulant child of like, that's it. I'm just going to still be me. I don't care anymore about anybody else. Which will then create separation. So the challenge is, how do we share our truth, share our light without moving into a place of separation once again? Whew. That was a powerful way to start. That first card just took us on a journey and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's almost been an hour. Checking in, of course, this is the Plant Spirit Oracle. Love this deck in connecting to Earth Mother energy. Different decks always carry different energy. So since this has been very much around our connection to all, let us connect to our plant kin, our plant siblings, and see collective message for the new moon that you wish to share at this time with those who are listening or those who are listening on replay. Okay. Even before I pulled open the second card, I felt it. I was like, whoa, okay. So you'll understand. First card that came through was very much just affirming what we have been moving through in this hour together. Sensitivity, it took me a long time to really process my sensitivity, because it was always thought of as like, when I was in business circles, they'd be like, oh, you're too sensitive. You know what I mean? It was something that I had to like toughen up or get stronger. It was looked like as a weakness. I remember when Actually, a previous romantic partner, I shared with him, it was like, it was right around like when Brene Brown was talking about the power of vulnerability, way back then, and was sharing with him going like, so what do you think about like vulnerability and stuff? Da, 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 da. And he just looked at me like, as I was like, vulnerability, that's weakness. And so because we have been ingrained for more than one body cycle, more than one life cycle, to have to survive, to have to protect ourselves, to have to move through many, many cycles that you would have to go into those harm or be harmed type of things, or be strong, be a warrior, be tough, because things are going to come and get you, because they literally were. So we're stepping into a new start, right? A new thing, something new. And so in this newness, those old ways of feeling like your sensitivity, you're like, I want to be intuitive. I want to, connect to my body. And then you connect to your body and like, I'm all super sensitive. So it's like, process what may come up around sensitivity. Process what may come up around also this word, intensity. For many years, I used to apologize because I felt my energy was too intense for people. Yeah. And I finally then had enough good friends that would regularly see me do this and be like, Josie, shut up. Nothing is wrong with your energy. As you do the work, as you heal, as you grow, right? Be it that you will feel moments of intensity, moments of sensitivity, allow that to move through you. It's when we feel that is our state that it becomes an issue. The beauty of even seeing this gorgeous, the jewel weed is even like on the turtle's back, on the rocks, in the water. It's like, I am of earth and I am growing. I am growing all these wondrous things on my back, even as I move slow, and even as the growth may come faster than I can cross the river. You know what I mean? Like maybe that whole sprig of beautiful, plant actually grew faster than the movement of the turtle. And so that's when things might feel intense. Or things might be growing very slowly. You might be moving very slowly, and you're very aware of how long it may be taking you to move. And so then you might feel extra sensitive, right? So it's honoring that, be it that you acclimate to one of these words, they are all speaking of movement of energy, and to allow it to move. And when it comes to openness, when it comes to clarity, the clearing of emotion, then vulnerability may show up, uncertainty, feeling weak in opposition to strong, which is why the next card I felt is the fire. How beautiful. The water of emotions and the fire. Isn't this incredible? Of asking us to have such, understanding of the momentum of two things at the same time. Passion, energy, and movement. Movement can be fiery, intense. Movement can be slow, right? There's lots of talk about movement. I want you to ask yourself the questions that are coming through to close this off for this new moon. What shadows are very simply apparent that I am not choosing to face? When it comes to all the hard work that I have done to get me to this point, what makes me afraid or uncertain? In being in my balanced and harmonious stance, honoring that there will be continuous movement, momentum, and shifts. And what is it that I can truly begin to accept of my light? So as much as you journey into the shadows, what can I accept of my light? And that your light is not there to be a beacon for others to follow. A light is there for you to simply be a beacon of self. To light and support all that is. There are big questions coming up around what are your passions? What are you most passionate about offering? Some of you are having questions about, am I doing the right stuff, doing the right work right now? There's all the questions coming up. And so I might speak in my oracle sessions very esoterically, so very broad, because it's a collective reading. But know that these broader concepts can apply to very real life occurrences. So if you're ever so guided to book a personal session, we can obviously go more in depth with personal things. But definitely what I'm receiving just now that is kind of a little bit prevalent for more than one person, so it can be shared on this platform, is that yes, these questions of kind of like, what am I doing with my life, or where am I going? Like these big questions are, I think some of you are even going like, who am I? Because there's been so much work and stuff going on, right? We sometimes can get tripped up into the question up in the mind. The mind will try to filter. Again, go into the body. Go into the body, connect to the earth, and allow yourself to sound. Allow yourself to sound, and you might discover that you have more clarity within than you actually may feel that you do, because clarity comes in communicating, right? Before books were written, before all these things, people spoke to each other, and that's how, bigger ideas were understood and cleared and all of that stuff. So the challenge this new moon to full is to see if you can move. If you are in a deep place of shadow or moving through some deep places of healing, I wouldn't say the challenge is this. The challenge would be to address that. And if you need assistance, you can always connect to a healer, be it me or another, that you most resonate to assist you to move through those intensities. Okay. Intensity sometimes can be challenging to clear on your own. But if you are feeling a bit more on kind of just like asking, but not feeling intensity or immense heaviness, sadness, or things like that, then you can challenge yourself to speak it out, to share some of these queries, not for answers, not necessarily, but just to share in the questioning, to share in the discovery, to share in the journey. And in that, then the conversation can bring slowly greater translation, greater clarity. So yes, that is what's coming through. Yes. I'm always happy to do readings, usually as a first off service or a session with me for someone else that hasn't like already listened to me or done some of my work. A guidance session is always ideal because those are like the most palatable. I'm not there going whoa and doing all that my spirit sounds or things like that. It's very simple like this, and in sharing information. Ooh, huge flame of your lighter as you were lighting Palo Santo at the same time the fire card came. Yes. Yes. So, light, shadow, light can also be translated as fire, right? So, that's this. I want to see. I'm like I'm checking and I'm like how big do I need to go here? There's a lot that we are processing around fire right now. Fire can be a shadow within itself. Just how darkness was a shadow in itself, right? Of people being taught to be afraid of the dark, to people being taught to, you know what I mean? Like all this dichotomy of like dark light being good, bad, or all this shit, right? So same thing. It's very neat that a lot of people that I've connected to that have gone on a very, like very, very, very an immense or intense light path, meaning like they've done stuff to just keep them up in the accessing the light. When I connect to their center, I'm like, you're afraid of fire. And they're like, holy shit, how did you know? And they're like, but I'm always talking at the light. I'm a light being. I'm a light body. And then I'm fucking afraid of fire. Part of my French. So it's like fire could also actually be the shadow, right? The shadow of what I am speaking of with light, right? There is almost an uncontrollability to flame that sometimes people don't think when they see just like golden light, right? I did a vision meditation. If some of you experienced it, I loved it. I practiced it actually recently myself. I asked you to envision these golden balls of light, right? There was no actually sensation of flame. It's a very different thing to meditate or to visualize golden light. But then you're like, but wait a second, this is actually golden light. But if I asked you to envision a flame, a fire, could bring up a lot of stuff. We are beings that are innately connected to the four elements. They are us. That's why we can access them. That's why we can work with them. That's why they can assist us in co-creating all that we wish to create and bring forward for the good of all. So, thank you for bringing that in, Raquel, because yes, since fire specifically came up, you can work with absolutely taking a peek to see what are even the shadows, the fears, the uncertainties, the separation between what is you or I and that element, be it water, be it fire, be it earth, be it air, because we are all connected. And I remember, and I won't go too much longer because I know it's already been an hour. Thank you all for sitting with me. I I remember a time in spirit journey and connection to Earth Mother and cosmic fire, which is an element of the fire that is beyond, I would say, fire of Earth. So it is a more balanced and harmonious essence of that element. Elements, as well as planets, as well as all of us, we all carry polarities. We all can carry, the negative and positive charge of energies, or masculine, feminine charge of energies, so how I describe cosmic would be beyond that, like would be once the masculine aspect of energy, or the masculine aspect of fire, and the feminine aspect of fire kind of connected and became one. So in accessing that, the first thing Earth Mother goes is asks me to step into the fire. And I even then was like scared, going, oh my gosh, I'm going to get burned. So we have these innate fears of even the things that we seek, or the things that we wish to connect to. And so that is what we are processing. We are processing some big stuff right now. So honor how the emotions are moving through. You can hear my dog's been going nutso over this session. Honor what is going to, we are in a movement phase. We are in transitioning phase towards a new start. And the neat thing, one last thing about this card, because when we say a new start is coming, or a new start is here, where is it? When is it? When is it going to happen? Right? We all get like, and so the new start can vary. When I say a new start is coming, the only way a new start can come is because it is supported first by the larger beings, be it Earth Mother, be it planet Earth, be it the sun, the moon, the elements, right? Like they've begun already. And so then we slowly catch up. Slowly, turtle. So in that movement, some of us, right, depending on the pace of what we've been going through and the shadows we've been processing, and processing also of our light and our capacity for greatness and power, and processing the ego when that comes up around the power. There's a lot of processing. There's a lot of things to move through. So in movement, so in that, the start is not like it's all of a sudden going to be a date. I love how so many times there's been like, this is the day when everything is going to change. The date is individual, dependent on your choices, dependent on when you are ready to make the new start, when you are ready to share your truth, to speak, to connect, to receive more clarity and connection, to invite more people on your journey, trusting that your growth, if it brings up a shitstorm in someone else, that it's not your fault, to not then silence your voice, to honor that we are moving through the shit, the fire, all of it at different paces. And so a new start is up to you. It's always up to you. It could be tomorrow. It could be next week. It could be next year. It could be next lifetime. Any other questions, comments, things that you wish to share before I close? Just spilling a bit of the beeswax to honor the closing of this session. I am so grateful to be able to sit here and to speak more of my truth in that trust, in that trust that it is in connection, and the connection that I feel to you, to we, to this earth. And if my sound shifts, that's the beauty, because that means that maybe I processed another shadow or another, you know what I mean? Another thing. But the essence of our sound doesn't shift. The essence, the truth of our sound doesn't shift. So grateful. Truly. And it's neat because last thing to say is that gratitude for connection, right? And for speaking and connecting, right? Then you want, like, you're like, I need to bring people, I need to speak people and bring them, like, get them on board and get them excited. And all I'm receiving around that is like, no, because that's not honoring their pace, right? Isn't it wild? So it's like, by connecting more to the all of how our bodies are connected to all beings, and choosing to not harm ourselves, which will naturally then not harm others, right? Then how wild is it that we can't like pull people along for the ride anymore? It is trusting that your sound, your song, your truth, you shining your freaking light, your fire, your passion, your clarity, your equilibrium, your harmony, right? That will go out. And those that are ready to not just listen, those that are ready to communicate, to sound with you, to listen and speak, to move in that dance with you, will come. They will come. They're coming. They're coming. Have a lovely, lovely, lovely evening. If you've tuned into parts of this, you're always welcome to have a re-listen. These oracle sessions, as you see, I draw very little cards and it's very channeled. I even sometimes take a re-listen to really understand, how the flow was and how it came. But I do feel we are complete now. So deep gratitude to all the spirits, all the angels, all the ancestors, all that support us, all who love us, all the bodies, all of our bodies that connect to us and love us, and deep gratitude for you. Thank you. Closing this session, and hope to see you soon. In heart and in truth. Take care.